Good morning, guys. Today we are talking about Coleridge. Coleridge is another poet of the first generation, along with Wordsworth and Blake. The first generation of the Romantic poets, I mean. He was born in 1772, and he shared the same with Wordsworth and Blake the enthusiasm for the French Revolution. As for Wordsworth and Blake, there was a strong disillusionment that followed the period of terror that followed the French Revolution, and as a reaction he decided to plan to establish a utopian community called Pantisocracy in Pennsylvania, in America, where there was no private ownership, no private property, and the principle of equality dominated. So everyone was equal to the others. A utopian community where freedom and equality dominated. But in fact, this utopian community was not accomplished, was not realized. In his life, he developed an addiction to opium that was prescribed by doctors to ease his bodily pains caused by rheumatism. And the opium influenced his poetic production because it pushed beyond his imagination into the supernatural and the surreal, il surreale. The friendship and cooperation with Wordsworth was very important to Coleridge. He met him in Somerset, and they decided to write together a collection of poems called Lyrical Ballads. Actually, Coleridge's contribution only consisted in the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, that is just one poem that actually was a ballad, and so it was quite long, and it opened the collection Lyrical Ballads. To Coleridge, imagination has a very important role, as also for Wordsworth and Blake had. He distinguished two kinds of imagination, primary and secondary imagination. As for primary imagination, he said, it is the power to give the chaos of perceptions a shape and an order. That is, it was the power of the poet to give an order, dare un ordine, to the chaos of senses perceptions. That is, man has a lot of sense perceptions during his life, during his day, but these perceptions are confused, they are in a chaos. The poet, with the primary imagination, has the power to give this chaos of perceptions a shape and an order. That is, to transform this chaos of perceptions in a work, in a poem. Secondary imagination is the poetic faculty that, after having given an order to the perceptions of the world, creates new worlds. What does it mean? The secondary imagination goes beyond the primary imagination. That is, after having given order to the chaos of perceptions, this secondary imagination creates new worlds. That is, it creates alternative worlds to the real one, supernatural, surreal worlds that are alternative to the real world that is the result of human perceptions. And it is the secondary imagination that he uses in his Rime of the Ancient Mariner, where he's starting from a very realistic situation that is a wedding, he created an unreal and supernatural world, surreal and nightmarish, da incubo situations, in which, of course, the opium had a great importance. It helped him, it pushed his imagination and gave life to this masterpiece that is Rem of the Ancient Mariner. In this ballad, the rhyme, Mariner tells the story of the killing of an albatross of good omen, buon augurio, during a travel by sea to a wedding guest. So the mariner is at a wedding, a feast, una festa di matrimonio, and he stops a guest and starts telling him his story. The mariner, during a travel by sea, with his crew, col suo equipaggio, kills an albatross that was considered by the crew a bird of good omen, un uccello di buon augurio. This killing of the bird is considered as a serious sin because it is a crime against the sacred laws of nature. That is, by killing this albatross without any reason, the mariner breaks the sacred laws of nature, and so he has to expiate his fault. And he can expiate his fault by telling people his story, the story of his sin and of the consequences of his sin on the rest of the crew. A narration, a very nightmarish narration follows, where the reader finds himself in nightmarish situation, in surreal context, populated by monstrous creatures, and where even the mariner meets a ship that is phantom ship, that is una nave abitata dai fantasmi, where two skeletons cast dice, giocano a dadi, and they bet the life of the crew and of the mariner. The two skeletons represent death and death in life. Death wins the life of the crew, so all the crew dies, and the mariner and the life in death wins the life of the mariner. So he is forced to continue to live, but in a passive way. He has to repeat his story to everyone he meets, and in this way he can expiate his fault, la sua colpa. So also for Coleridge, nature was very important, so the sacred laws of nature don't have to be broken, but it is exactly what the Industrial Revolution has done. It has destroyed nature and has made the men unalienated. So the consequence is punishment, and all the members of the crew die, and the mariner is condemned to a life in death, telling his story to everyone. The atmosphere is supernaturally mysterious, populated by unreal creatures. The style recalls the medieval ballad. That is, it has some features of the old medieval ballad, such as archaic forms in the language, the division of the ballad into 4-line stanzas, and a lot of sound devices and figures of speech. For example, there are many repetitions and alliterations. If we had to summarize Coleridge into just a sentence, just a few words, we could say Coleridge, or the supernatural and the importance of imagination, because it is what we actually find in the Rime of the Ancient Mariner. That was his most important work. That's all for today. Goodbye.